This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information.
You're on mute. There you go.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's always delayed here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sports Hour. That was fun, wasn't it? We're going to do a little different from Sports Minute, but it's basically the same thing, but revamp the topics a little bit. Of course, I have Ace right beside me, and how are you this evening, Ace?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm sitting here ready to talk some sports tonight with my man.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Hopefully, Brandon Big B will be here as well. I would like everyone who's watching to comment in wherever you may be about the topics and give us that 5-star liking on Facebook and follow us on all the socials and everything like that. And be sure to look out for the schedule coming up for the whole programs. You know, tomorrow, me and Crispy Bacon will have On Deck, and then Kicking It, hopefully, with Ace and everyone else. And then Friday, Entertainment Hour with me, Randy, and Chris. And then Morning Tailgate with Brandon coming on in. And then me and Tim, and then Crispy Bacon, of course. So look out Sunday for that NFL action. We're going to be previewing and recapping the Thursday night game, and in the middle of that haunted London game that will be the opposite of that. The WNBA finals are going on, and we have a couple of stories. Game 3 of the finals, it was a tremendous ball game. Sabrina Ionescu had some big threes going down the stretch to give them the win, to give the Liberty to win 80-77. They lead that series best of 5, 2-1. That was, of course, in Minnesota. Game 4 will, of course, be in Minnesota. Brianna Stewart had 30 points. Ionescu and 2 others also had 13 points. John L. Jones and Leonie Fibich also had 13 points as well. It wasn't till Sabrina really put it on, and she had I think 2 out of 3 3-point attempts to win that game. Credit to the Lynx, they stayed in there and were hungry the whole game, led by Napisha Collar and with 22 points, and then Kayla McBride had 19, and then the gamer, of course, Courtney Williams had 12 points, and then Bridget Carlson had 14 for the Lynx, but it wasn't enough, as it just came down to veteran know-how and just the big points again by Stewart, and then Ionescu doing it for the Liberty. So that was a huge win, of course, and Liberty are 1 win away from their WNBA championship. So look out for that. Ace, did you see that? And man, we've had a hell of a WNBA final so far. I mean, game 1 last Thursday was awesome. Game 2 went to the Liberty. And what'd you think about all that? Oh, you're on mute, Ace.
I was on mute. Yep. So tonight, I'll tell you, I did not get a chance to watch the game. I was actually reffing a high school game tonight, so I didn't get a chance to watch it. But I was able to come home. I wanted to look at the stats and everything and see how everything went. Did it surprise me when I looked up and it showed me that Brianna Stewart went off for 30? No, I was not. I was not surprised about that. To me, right now, this has been Brianna's finals. That's all I'm saying. It's been a lot of Brianna Stewart in this finals. You know, people have been talking a lot about Caitlin Clark. You know, most of this season, people have been talking about it, but I don't want people to forget about how good Brianna Stewart actually is, and she's showing it in the finals, like right now. And I know we talked about this two weeks. I think it was 2 weeks ago. We actually talked about predictions for the WNBA finals, and there was actually, I think it was split down the middle. That half the people took the Lynx and half took the Liberty. And right now, you look at the season series, and I know that the Lynx played good against the Liberty in during the season. It's only 2-1 series, so it's definitely not over. The Lynx will have a chance, but I think with the way that the Liberty have been playing, I think it's going to be too much. They're going to be too much for the Lynx, and I think it actually ends in 4. Do you feel like it goes 5, or do you think it's?
I think it ends. I think it ends in 4. The next game, I could just see that happening, where it was just too much for the Lynx to handle. I hope we go to game 5 back to Brooklyn, but we'll see what happens with that. I'll be definitely trying to watch whenever the next game is. We got so much going on in sports right now. It's a great time of year for sure. Some other news. The first and second teams were announced in the WNBA, and Caitlin Clark is the first rookie to make an all WNBA team since Brianna Stewart in 2016, and the first to make the first team since Candace Parker back in 2008 with Los Angeles. So it's great to see that for Caitlin Clark. She also joins Parker, Sue Bird back in 2002, Tamika Catchings also in 2002, and Diana Taurasi as the only rookies, 2004 by the way, as the only rookies ever to earn that honor, being a rookie and making the first team. So Brianna made it in 2016 as a second teamer. But Clark, along with her with the fever, also has Nafisa Collier from the Lynx. Brianna Stewart, of course, made the first team with the Liberty. Alyssa Thompson with the Connecticut Sun, and Asia Wilson with the Las Vegas Aces. The second team was led by Sabrina Ionescu with the Liberty, and then also her teammate Jonquel Jones, the tall center in there with the Liberty. The other second team, the other 3 ladies were Kalia Copper with the Phoenix Mercury. I'm gonna have some fun with these names. Are like Ogunbawo from the Dallas Wings, and then Nika Oguwami from the Seattle Storm, the former Los Angeles Sparks, who does ESPN on the NBA, I should say. So I'm not too surprised by those first and second teamers. I don't know if you caught that, and was there anybody you think was left off who you wanted to see when the season started?
No, I'm on mute again. But I do want to give a shout out though, really quick to Caitlin Clark, and the reason I want to is because if you remember when the season first started, we talked about how Indiana was hyping her up so much that we all had this huge fear that, oh yeah, she's getting so hyped up that she can come in and potentially fail because of how much that they are hyping her up. But she came out, she played, and she lived up to the hype that people were talking about. And so before the season started, that's what I was concerned about is was Caitlin Clark going to live up to that hype because of the shoes that they gave her? And you know what? Impressive. She lived up to it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and the things that I remember at first, remember they were down in the dumps. They only had one win, I think,
Mm-hmm.
after a while. And you're just saying, man, I hope she's able to work with her teammates better. And gradually that happened throughout the season, where not only she was out here running off of screens and shooting curry threes, she was actually facilitating, getting the others involved to make threes like she did at Iowa, then also facilitating and passing the ball well inside. So she became a all, you know, almost an all-tool player there, where she could also finish at the cup as well. So, I think she learned a lot. Her teammates learned about her, and they finally got it all together to make a miraculous run to the playoffs too. I don't think anybody had them in the playoffs after a while. I think everybody just thought, oh, she'll get hers, but having Boston with her as well, I don't know how they'll do. They need more help, probably, but the role players also did their job. So it was great after a while. Remember, I think they had a gauntlet to start the season. They were putting her on primetime national television right away. So that made it pretty tough for her to get her footing in the league. She was playing all of her, heroes basically growing up and watching in high school and college or whatever, just like Taurasi. And but she fought through it, and the Fever fought through it. And I think the biggest thing is the impact she had and the Fever had on the league, on the franchise, on the city of Indy, where they were selling out games that never happened before, on the road and at home. Just think what she did at Iowa. Same thing translating to the WNBA. I would have liked to see Cameron Brink, the center for the Sparks, but I think after I forget how many games, it felt like 6 or 7 games, and she was out with a lower leg injury, and she was out for the remainder of the season. But I hope she comes back even better. And I was really I was wanting to go see her and Clark play in LA, but just think about this too, the impact of Clark and the Fever. That game that they were supposed to play in LA was supposed to be at a little college gym, but instead they moved it to where the Lakers played, and it was sold out. So it just shows you how much of an impact Caitlin Clark made on the court and off the court. I mean, with all the deals, her good friendship, it seems like, but with Angel Reese, that was also a big deal when they played each other. And the league is in good hands. And by the way, the talking about the future of the league, another news story came up. The WNBA draft lottery will be held November 17th. The league announced today. Los Angeles, Dallas, Chicago, and Washington will participate. Those four. The draft is scheduled to take place April 14th of 2025. And the Golden State Valkyries will have the 5th selection in each of the 3 rounds. So keep that in mind, as they're the new expansion team. Toronto will be after that 2 seasons from now. So, hey, hopefully for me, LA gets that first pick, but we'll see what happens with that. Remember, I think this is probably the Paige Buckets draft, where you don't get her you're kind of trying to figure out who else do you want to pick. It all comes down to the Yukon guard there who came back from injury, and she's amazing. And I've seen her play at Yukon. It's going to be a lot of fun to see her in the WNBA whenever that time comes.
So I just want to throw this out there really, really quick because I know you were asking. Well, you were kind of making a comment about it and talking about how Caitlin Clark, when the season started, she kind of ran through the gauntlet and they kind of got off to a rough start. Which I will say, if you remember, they absolutely did, because when the season started, they actually started 0-5, and then they got their first win, and then they lost 3 in a row after that. So they actually started the season 1-8, and then. And that was when they were kind of able to turn things around. So at the very beginning, yeah, and that was when people were really getting concerned at that point in time, being like, can Caitlin Clark actually turn this team around? And that was where it got concerning. The other interesting stat that I do want to throw out there, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I am an Aces fan, and I do want to say that is actually one team that Caitlin Clark did not beat this year, was the Aces. She's actually 0-4 against the Aces. So I just want to throw that stat out there.
I can see that.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, James.
Yeah, I figured she was going to have the hard times against the established teams, and that came out to be. Okay, let's get to some NFL talk, and of course the big stories during the week. And yesterday, of course, was Davante Adams being traded to the New York Jets, reuniting with Aaron Rodgers, the former Green Bay Packer teammates. He's going to join Alan Lazard, whoever else was with Nathaniel Hackett, all those other guys with the New Jersey Packers. The Raiders get back a 3rd-round pick, but it could accumulate to a 2nd-round pick. I think the conditions were Adams has to be playing in the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl, and he has to be playing in a certain amount of games for the Jets, I believe it is, for that to be a 2nd-round pick for the Raiders. The Raiders do have a lot of cap room in space, I should say, for next season, but who wants to go there right now? I'm trying to being a Raider fan, I'm trying to take away from all this where, hey, you're losing out on one of the best receivers out there. But you have that conditional 3rd-round pick that could be a 2nd-round pick. The financial issues could be really good as well, where you get him. You do have a dead cap hit, but you also have money to spend later on. You look at the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. You get a familiar face back, the one who knows what you're going to say after you say a word. He's going to know the word to say after, basically. So it's going to work out, you would think, for the New York Jets and Adams and Rodgers. They have a big test, of course, on Sunday Night Football in Pittsburgh. Right away, they get tested, these two. But I think they were together for so long, as you know, that they can pretty much work through everything. So I wasn't shocked when the trade happened. And then all these weeks that he was out with a hamstring injury, we knew he wasn't out with one. So my reaction, I wasn't really shocked by it. I was just waiting when that was going to happen. And the Raider coach, of course, mentioned we'll be fine without him. We were the last couple of weeks. This is after a couple of embarrassing losses, by the way. Yeah. Hey, so what's your reaction to Davante Adams being traded to the New York Jets, reuniting with Aaron Rodgers?
All right. So number one, I will say, when you said you kind of saw the trade coming. Yeah. Now, for the longest time, we were hearing rumors on multiple occasions saying, Davante Adams has requested a trade, and he wants out of Vegas, and he wants to go somewhere else. But then the reports were coming back being like, well, he could stay with the Raiders after all. And so there was this stuff that was kind of going back and forth, and it seemed to be kind of confusing at one
Yes.
time. But then I'm looking at the situation and I was like, okay, maybe because I think where the holdup was what the Raiders were asking. Teams felt
Yes.
like they were asking for too much in compensation. Now you're talking about the dead cap hit that the Raiders are supposedly taking. From my understanding, the Jets were picking up the $17 million on his contract. From my understanding,
That changed, yeah, from that
$17 million.
report I read. That's right.
Yeah. So I don't think the Raiders were actually taking on
Nothing.
that hit.
Right.
It was the Jets that are actually picking that
Right.
up.
I just
So
read that.
yeah. So that was actually beneficial. Was I surprised that Devontae went there? No, because I figured once he requested to be traded, I'm like, well, number one, he's gonna either go to the Jets with his friend Rodgers, or he's gonna go to the Saints with Derek Carr. But then there was rumors that came out there saying that Devontae did not want to go to New Orleans. He didn't want to go there. So then once those reports came out and said, oh, okay, well, he doesn't want to go there, I'm like, well, then he's going to end up with the Jets. And I kind of figured in that moment, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going to definitely end up with the Jets then. Now, how big is it? That's actually huge for the Jets, because we kind of knew that the Jets needed another guy. You know, they have Garrett Wilson. They have Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard has kind of come back this year as he struggled last year, but I think it was kind of that Zach Wilson effect. I really think it was. And to where Zach Wilson, well, we know he's not that good. So he was kind of holding Lazard down a little bit. But then the Jets went out this offseason and got Mike Williams. But how terrible has Mike Williams been? He's been absolutely horrible. He hasn't done barely anything this season. Mike Williams is supposed to be that deep threat, and he hasn't been it. So Devontae actually going to the Jets make them a viable Super Bowl contender. I know they're sitting at 2-4. I get it. I do get it. But it's not too late yet. There's still a lot of football left. They have a great defense. I think they said that the Jets are ranked like third in the NFL in defense currently. The Jets, either way you look at it, this makes the Jets so much better because Rodgers and Devontae have that chemistry already. It's not going to take them long to get that chemistry back. It's really not. Now you have Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Breece Hall, and Braylon Allen, and I guess and you could throw in Alan Lazard, and even in Conklin, you know, he's not that good of a tight end, but you can throw him in there and say that's who their tight end is. So with that, I mean, you got a killer offense right there and a great defense. So this makes the Jets really scary.
Yeah, the division isn't running away yet. They're just two behind the Bills, who they lost to on Monday night. And all I could think of when Rodgers, threw that pass and Williams slipped and fell and the pass got picked, all I could think about is like, hey, get Adams right now or else whatever. I knew, like, I didn't know it, but at the time I was just thinking they already made a coaching change. You can't blame the coach. You have
and
to
Hackett
blame.
isn't there. Well,
And Hackett got
not calling the
switched.
plays anymore. Yeah, he's not calling the plays anymore. But also keep in mind though, too, in that game, so there was 2 losses this year that the Jets have that they actually could have won, but Zerline actually missed that kick against the Broncos. Against the Broncos, he missed that kick. So the Broncos won that game, and then he missed 2 kicks in this game, which ended up costing them the game against the Bills too. So there was actually 2 wins that the Jets could have had that they ended up losing.
That Bronco game, you could blame the elements, but Monday, you can't blame anything. But just the reason why Zerline, ever since he left Los Angeles, he's been bouncing around a lot with the Cowboys. So Sunday Night Football, that is going to be intriguing. Well, Devontae Adams was not the only receiver who was traded this week. Amari Cooper, thankfully, probably happy that he was traded away from the Browns to the Bills. So the Bills get Amari Cooper and a 2025 6th-round pick. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns get a 3rd pick in 2025 and a 2026 7th-rounder back for Cooper. And, all I could think of is Josh Allen. He needs another big name receiver. Losing Diggs and Kirk, you could kind of tell he was running out of people to throw to. Shazier had some key drops and all the losses they had, so they really need to make a move. And they cleared enough room defensively that they can do this to take on Amari Cooper. So it's just a great move by the Bills. They get better after a win, too, on Monday Night Football. But I think it's just something Josh Allen needed. They needed a bigger name for a receiver than what they had in the room. Mac Hollins, he's a possession receiver, but he's not going to win you a game. So I love this move for Buffalo. What did you think about Cooper going to Buffalo?
Honestly, in a way, it didn't surprise me that Buffalo went out and got a receiver. Was it surprising it was Cooper? A little bit, because there wasn't really any – I didn't see any news or rumors saying that, the Browns were shopping him or anything, unless I missed it, but I didn't see that. Now, does it surprise me that the Bills went out and got him? Not at all. And the reason I'm saying that is because that after the Bills even won that game, after they beat the Jets, and then they see that the Jets go out and get Adams, there was no way that the Bills were gonna stay where they were and been like, oh yeah, the Jets just got 100 times better, but we're just gonna sit here and do nothing. No, once the Bills saw that the Jets got better, they're like, okay, we're gonna make our move. We have to go out and make a move. We have to go out and get a receiver. They weren't just going to sit there and do nothing. They had to get better. Now, I know some Bills fans, and they were talking about – there was some Bills fans who were very, very excited about the receiving core that they had. And I'm like, why are you excited about it? You have Samuel. You have Keon Coleman, which nobody thought – what they were going to get from Coleman, because Coleman's a rookie. And so far, Coleman hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything. So, but there's Samuel, there's Coleman, and then you have Mac Hollins, which, people would be like, Mac Hollins, who's that? You have Shakir. So that was going to technically be their number one guy was Shakir. Shakir was going to be number one. Keon Coleman was going to be number 2. And then you have Dawson Knox as your tight end and Kincaid. So obviously you're like, okay, there's not much. So they were going to go out and get somebody. So it was kind of good that the Bills got Cooper, I should say, and it made the Bills better, and it actually gives them that number 1 receiver that they needed.
Just a reminder, at the end of the first round in the draft for the season, the Bills could have took a certain receiver named Xavier Worthy. Instead, they traded that pick to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs got Worthy. And if the Bills probably had Worthy, they wouldn't have been needing to make this trade for Cooper. So keep that in mind. Some other NFL news. Russell Wilson. I never wanted to see him play again. But there's a possibility he could start for the Pittsburgh Steelers over Justin Fields. He's been taking first team rep snaps over Justin Fields in practice this week. So it's going to come down to Mike Tomlin to make that decision. We all know, just like the Colts have done this year so far, you go with the hot hand of Joe Flacco over Anthony Richardson, and you hope Richardson learns from Flacco about how to get the ball out more and not take so many hits. But in this case, I feel like Justin Fields, if Russell Wilson starts on Sunday night, I feel Fields is going to get screwed. If you put him back in the starting role, he won't be the same. And Fields, you got to give it up to him. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. He hasn't turned over the ball too much. It was just that Colts game where it looked like the old Chicago Bears with Justin Fields. But this move would piss me off if Mike Tomlin does it. And I'm hoping, I'm not even a Steeler fan. I just want to see how Fields, he's just been able to manage the game well, and they've been winning. They're 4-2. But if you put in Russell Wilson, who hasn't played yet this year and has been lame ever since the preseason, I feel like that's going to turn the locker room over too. You got to go with the hot hand. You got to keep Fields going, in my opinion. What do you think about this, Ace? Do you think Pittsburgh should stick with Justin Fields, what's been working, or give it to the most experienced guy, the reason you traded for Russell Wilson, and start him against the Jets on Sunday night?
Well, a lot of times you always hear you got to go with the hot hand. Now, you look at Justin Fields' numbers, his completion percentage is up. And I think right now, he's completing about 67% of his passes, I do believe. So his percentage is up a little bit. His yards per game passing, it's nothing special. I mean, he's not throwing for 300 yards a game. I think he might be averaging anywhere from like maybe 195 to 200 yards a game or something. It's on the lower end. A lot of Justin Fields' numbers and stuff are going to come from the rushing side. There are games this year that I've seen Justin Fields play in that the inaccuracy is still there. The difficult time, I feel like the difficult time at times reading defenses is still there. Now, this is something that when they went out and signed, Russell Wilson, they brought Russell Wilson in to be the starter. Now, they only brought him in to be that bridge. They brought him in to be a bridge quarterback, to bring him in for maybe a year, let him play for a year. Then once they traded for Fields, well, you got to think Russell Wilson beat out Justin Fields in preseason, but then Wilson got hurt. So Wilson was supposed to be the starter. So is it the right move? And the reason why I'm going to say yes is because when guys struggle with inaccuracy and guys struggle with reading defenses and things like that, it helps when that quarterback is able to sit behind a veteran and learn from the veteran when they're sitting on the sidelines and learning. Do I think that Justin Fields has the potential to be a number one? Absolutely, I do. I think he does. But I think if he's able to sit there and learn, that's going to only make him a better quarterback. Now, why do you think a team like Green Bay has success with quarterbacks? It's simple. Because they draft and develop. They draft the quarterback and they let him sit behind the veteran and learn. And so in a situation like this, I think this is going to only be beneficial for Justin Fields. So I think it is the right move.
I just want to see Russell. And remember, too, the Steelers just paying the veteran minimum for Russell this year. Remember, the Broncos are paying the salary for Russell playing this year with the Steelers. So it means nothing money-wise to the Steelers to play him. I just wonder if the Steelers are going to make a move to maybe beef up the receiving core. I mean, everybody else has. We were just talking about. And the Chiefs could be out there still for DeAndre Hopkins. Calvin Ridley, you heard last week, was unhappy in Tennessee as well. So there's still some moves to be made, and I just can't wait for the deadline and those moves to be had. More Raider issues, at least in my mind. Tom Brady is officially introduced today at the Raider facility in Henderson, Nevada, as being part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Wasn't he already the owner of the... Well, anyway. This brings back haunting memories of, the Tuck rule and the Raiders, starting the Patriot dynasty. And that man walks in, part owner of the Raiders. Mark Davis mentioning, too, in a press... somebody asked him a question, basically, of how this goes. And it's like, hey, we traded Devontae Adams, but we got Tom Brady back. I'm thinking to myself, well, Tom Brady's not playing football, and he's, 48, and he's not going to be playing. And of course, the rumors come out. Well, maybe Belichick and Brady will make up, and Belichick will be the Raider coach, and Antonio Pierce will get fired. Antonio Pierce doesn't know X's and O's. That's why Marvin Lewis is there to help him out, and Tom Coughlin before the season there to be a counselor of some sort. But this just haunts me. So Tom Brady being the part owner, of course, he does the games on Fox, and he's been better as of late with his criticism and his joy of the game. And of course, he'll be there in San Francisco or Santa Clara with the Niners and Chiefs. Anyway, this answers my question. But who you wouldn't want as the owner of your favorite team? So I have, of course, Tom Brady, part owner of the Raiders. So Ace, let's say for the Packers, who wouldn't you want to see be part owner or owner of the Green Bay Packers if they were not publicly owned?
That's a very tough question, actually. That's a boy, that's a tough one, actually.
Think about anybody who's given you nightmares as a Packer fan in the past.
In the past, man, Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody like Troy Aikman, Brian Urlacher.
Would you imagine that? Chicago Bear. Oh boy.
Yeah. Brian Urlacher comes in and buys a publicly owned team like the Packers and becomes the owner, and you're like, are you kidding me? A freaking Chicago Bear? Like that would be like one of the worst nightmares coming true. Also, a bad thing though about certain ownership is like you look at sometimes like group investors that come in and they want to buy teams. As like a group, you have like 3 or 4 people who come in and they buy a team, but then when they come in and buy a team, they like dismantle the team. They go, we're gonna start fresh, and it's like every time they get a good team, a good player, like, oh, we're gonna trade him, we're gonna cut him, or whatever. Like the Marlins in baseball for
Derek Jeter.
a long time. Derek Jeter took him over and then completely just destroyed the team. So things like that is kind of what I worry about. But if you're gonna ask me anybody, somebody like Troy Aikman, somebody like Brian Urlacher, yeah, guys like that.
Could you imagine? That'd be just crazy to me. So let's get out of the football realm and let's get into some baseball. The American League Championship Series going on, as well as the NLCS. We'll talk about the ALCS first. We, of course, have Cleveland, the Guardians, going against New York Yankees. It hasn't been going good for Cleveland so far. They've lost their 10 of its past 12 postseason games against the New York Yankees. Keep that in mind. So it's been a while. And the Yankees have held on game 1 and 2. They've had some great pitching performances as well for their starts. I should say game 1, I believe, 5-2 New York. Rodon had a great start for New York. Weaver's been great out of the bullpen, and the power of the Yankees has really shown up with Stanton, Judge, and Soto, and that's the reason why they're here. Tuesday night, it was more of the same. Bad play by the Guardians. Walks haunted the Guardians in game 1, but game 2, it came down to errors and errors and errors. Cleveland had 2 more, and that led to the Yankees winning 6-3. Clay Holmes getting a win, and BB getting a loss for Cleveland. Now, with the day off today, the Yankees go to Cleveland up 2-0. It'll be Smith going for New York and Boyd going for Cleveland. Boyd being the former Detroit Tiger. Game 4 will be Lewis Hill, who's been really good for New York this year. And we'll see if it goes past that far. The Guardians don't have a starter to be named yet, but we'll wonder who that'll be, and maybe they'll be a game away from elimination coming after tomorrow. Ace, really quick, do you think the Yankees sweep the Guardians, or will it be a gentleman's sweep of 5?
First off, I want to say that Steven Voigt had a heck of a year as a manager. I want to put that out there now and say that should he get manager of the year? Yes, because nobody predicted Cleveland being this good, even after he took over. So first things first, that's what I was saying. Now, second thing, the Yankees will get that gentleman's sweep. They'll get it in 5. The way that this is going right now, honestly, this is like my worst nightmare in the World Series coming true, because if it's the two teams that I think are gonna go, I could care less. I really could. I really could care less about it. I think it's going to be one of the dumbest World Series, honestly. You have your two high market teams, obviously, that are going to go. I'd rather watch paint dry, to be perfectly honest. But Yankees, yes, the Yankees will win the ALCS in 5, if that was your question.
Okay, and then for the NLCS, it started off really bad on Sunday afternoon. The Dodgers shut out the Mets 9-0. Flaherty was awesome, and Senga wasn't for New York. And the offense was amazing for Los Angeles. Quick turnaround the next afternoon, though. The Mets held on. There was a home run by for Lindor, so he continues to be hot. And Vientos had a grand slam to break that game open for New York. They held on to win 7-3. Sean Manaea, just heartbroken starts, the last couple of starts in this season for him, but he's had a great comeback season for the Mets as a starter there. Diaz got the save. So they had Tuesday off, and then tonight happened. In Queens, the Dodgers shut out the Mets 8-0. There's a pattern going on here in Game 3 after the split in LA. Kopech got the win. Seferino got the loss. It wasn't until the 6th inning and the 3rd inning when the Dodgers just poured it on after a while. Shohei Ohtani had a mammoth-ass home run that went over the fair pole in the 8th inning there. I mean, that thing was ridiculously hit. Hernandez and Muncy also had big hits. Hernandez had the RBI double, and Muncy had a home run as well. Mets had a cool catch, but that's all you can really say in a shutout. Tomorrow will be Game 4 as the Dodgers lead 2-1. Yamamoto will go for the Dodgers. Remember, he had a good start to close out the Padres in that Game 5 divisional series. Quintana will go for the Mets, and he's pretty much the only hope we have. Game 5 will be in the afternoon for some reason at 2:08. Locally where I am. So I guess our answer is the same. Our question is the same, and maybe the answer is the same. Is this a gentleman's sweep, or will the Mets rally like they've done all postseason long and maybe extend it to a 6th game or a 7th game and shock the world? What do you think?
The NLCS is going to go 6. The Dodgers are going to come out on top in 6. All I was hoping for, all I wanted, was either the Guardians to get in or the Mets to. I wanted some team to get in that I can at least cheer for. But I don't think it's gonna happen. The Dodgers are probably gonna take this series in 6. You're gonna end up seeing the Dodgers against the Yankees in the World Series, and unfortunately, this year, that's how the cookie's going to crumble.
Yeah, the World Series smell this year would be smut with the Yankees and Dodgers. I was thinking about it. Okay, they met in the 40s, they met in the 50s, they met in the 60s, they met in the 70s, met once in the 80s and 81, and that's been it. So these two haven't met in the World Series in a while. So I guess it would be good for those old timers, but for me and others who just want to see their team make the postseason or somebody else, it's a death sentence, whoever wins that series. Some other baseball news, and this one is pretty devastating. Now, Hurricane Milton came through and tore up, Tampa and the surrounding areas. It's just been an awful time. But you can see the damage here on the picture coming up where Hurricane Milton, of course, damaged the roof of Tropicana Field. That, of course, is the ballpark of the Tampa Bay Rays. But Tropicana Field will not be ready for 2025, as you can see right there. It has a feel, if you remember the inside images of the Superdome after Hurricane Katrina, and everybody was rushing there to try to get refuge and all that, and how, just dirty it was, and just how everything was messed up. So yeah, the roof caved in basically, and it would cost 9 figures to replace the roof, and I don't think it's going to happen in time. They're moving to a new ballpark in 3 years, so they can't play there without a draining system for rain, and it's going to eventually rain again before the season, and they have no roof to put up. This is just devastating, of course, and my question is, I know people on X are saying, well, maybe they should move the Rays to Oakland for 3 seasons and the Rays play there. That's not going to happen, even though that's the kind of coolest thing you could think of. But there's Orlando. There's their own, what is it? The old spring training ballpark they play in. They could go to George Steinbrenner Field and play at the Yankees spring training home. That would be awful, wouldn't it? But they have their share of, minor league ballparks and, spring training homes that they can go to. Dunedin, Florida hosted the Jays in 20 and 21. That could be a case when they were shut out from Canada. And even Miami would be a spot that they can find refuge. But Ace, my question to you, where do you think the Rays go from here? Because they can't play here at Tropicana Field. So where do you think they'll go play?
That's actually a really good question, because I don't really think there's any other places in Tampa that they could go play, because unless you remember like years and years and years ago when they would potentially have like a baseball diamond on a football field. If you remember, they've done that before in the past. But would they want to do that at like the I believe Raymond James Stadium?
Yeah.
Would they want to do that at Raymond James Stadium? I don't think that they would.
You can't fit there.
Yeah, it would be so weird. I don't think it would work. So obviously they can't play in Tampa Bay. So they would have to go somewhere close, somewhere in Florida. They might have to look at maybe potentially splitting a stadium with another team from
Marlins.
Florida. Potentially Miami, yeah. I could definitely see that, or playing at some sort of college stadium, because we know that the A's are doing that in Sacramento, and so it could be possible, but they could also split a stadium with the Marlins. If I'm the Rays and I want to be able to hold more fans, I would just go ahead and split a stadium with Miami. Be like, hey, we'll make sure that our home schedules don't match up, and we'll make sure to split it like that, just to draw in more revenue. I think it would go like that, because college stadiums, they don't hold as many fans. No, they don't at all. And when the A's go play in Sacramento, they're gonna have that problem. They're not gonna draw a lot of ballpark. Yeah, they're not going to be drawing a lot of revenue because it's a college ballpark. It's just not going to work. But that's my opinion on what the Rays should do.
Yeah, we'll follow that story throughout the year. Displacement. There's been a lot of that going on in Florida with the hurricane coming in, and we'll keep track of that. We needed Big B here for this next topic, but the Minnesota Twins will be going for sale. They read the Polad family, who has held ownership since 1984. So through the two championships that they've had, World Series championships in '87 and '91. Jim Podlad and his two brothers, Bill and Bob, uh, announced their intentions to sell the franchise. All I could say is, we need you, Big B, but I've heard this before with Artie Moreno and the Angels. Remember, I think it was last season, before the season, he said, "Oh, I'm going to sell. I'm going to look to sell," and he didn't, and the team's down the crapper. Some other news that came out today, and it involves selling in Major League Baseball. So this has been maybe overdue for a little bit after the White Sox had their 121 losing losses season this season. Jerry Reinsdorf is open to selling the White Sox to someone. And right now there is a rumor going out. I don't know if it will happen or not, but Dave Stewart, who wanted to buy the A's and keep them in Oakland, might have his sight on a ballpark in Nashville. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, I felt like he needs to sell. The fans are sick of the losing in Chicago. Again, they just had the worst record in modern history with 121 losses. Of course, it might be time for him to let go of the team and stop keeping it in the family and thinking about doing something else. What do you think about this quickly, Ace?
Well, my biggest thing is, if you remember after the season, Reinsdorf, he's the one who came out and basically said, "Oh, the way that the team played this year is inexcusable, and our fans deserve more." You're
Well,
the owner.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, and so I'm thinking, okay, you're the owner after the team that you were okay with putting on the field. I think, yeah, you should be open to selling the White Sox. And if I'm him, I would be too, because that product was disgusting. If I'm a
Mhm.
White Sox fan, I would be like, what are you doing here? Why are you putting this type of team on the field and allowing it? Like, allowing it is one thing. Not even going to the GM and saying you have to make moves, or going to the manager and being like, "Hey, we got to do something." No, it was nothing like that. Just sat back and just let it happen, and simply saying, well, we got to do better for our fans." Obviously, because the worst winning percentage in MLB history in a season. What makes you think that? So after a season like that, yeah, he should definitely be opening to selling the White Sox.
I think Steve Barber Jr., and maybe you could help me with who that is, but he has the emoji of a
That's my
man with
cousin.
his. Oh, all right. Hey, cuz. With his hand over his face. Maybe he's a White Sox fan. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe
No,
you
he's
could
not.
fill us in.
He's not.
But yeah, fertility just in Chicago with the White Sox. Speaking of fertility, and I'm sorry to say it like this, the NBA season is a week away. Tuesday will be the openers banner night for the Boston Celtics. Banner number 18 going up for Boston, and the Lakers will host the Minnesota Timberwolves, I believe. Anyway, fertility reigned in Detroit last year. The Pistons went 14-68. That was good for last place in the whole conference and in the NBA. Tell me, Ace, with the additions maybe they made this year, which I have to look up, of course. Where do you think? Give us your season preview for the Pistons, and then where do you think they'll finish? Do you think they can get more than 14 wins? Maybe get to 20? Will they have another long losing streak like they did
Well,
last year, or improve?
well, let me tell you this: if you they they got Tobias Harris back. That was
Yeah.
They got Tobias Harris back. Yeah, 14 wins last season. Yeah, your seasons have been up and down. You've gone from an 18 win season, and then you went to 22, and then you went to 20, and then you went down to 14 again. With in the mix of having that 14 win season, there was a span to where, if you remember, they lost 28 consecutive games, and longest streak in NBA history. 28 consecutive games. Within that span, they went 1-31. They're like, it was bad. It was bad. They went 1-31. They have a whole new front office. So they're basically going from so they looked at the front office, said, okay, Weaver's gone. We got to get rid of everybody and restart. The front office, anyway, our players. No, I mean, Cunningham is obviously your future, so you have to go with Cunningham. I look at the season outlet like this. I go, you had 14 wins last year. You can't be any worse. You really can't. But it is the Pistons, and it would not cease to amaze me if somehow we're sitting here saying 14 wins all of last year, you can't get worse. But then they would come out and surprise me and somehow end up being worse. So, just when and look, with me being a Pistons fan my whole life, it doesn't matter. Like, you can look at you can look at our entire roster, our entire depth chart, and realize and be like, look, we have some players, we have some ballers, we do. The problem is they can never put winning streaks together. They can never play. I don't know what it is. I swear, the Pistons are cursed. It's a curse. So, for the last several years, I've said, okay, look at our roster. We're there. We're going to be on a brink of a play-in team to where we can come out and surprise teams. And then every year I say that, we suck. So this year, my prediction, I don't even want to make one. But if I had to make one, we're going to have 20 wins. We're going to be better by 6 games.
Nowhere to go but up for the Detroit Pistons.
Well, that's what you think, but it is the Pistons.
That's what I mean. Nowhere to go but up. Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris. Those are the additions the Pistons made when it comes to the young, older players. Of course, you still have Isaiah Stewart, and you mentioned Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and that's all. That's all needs to be written or read on the roster. For the Clippers, who used to be that bad a long time ago, they've moved buildings. No longer will they share Crypto.com Arena. For the Clippers, they move into Intuit Dome. They had preseason games there for the first time on Tuesday, and we'll have another one Thursday against Sacramento. And then their season starts on the 23rd, against the Phoenix Suns. And then, so I'm going to check that place out one day. Their key loss was Paul George. He went to the Philadelphia 76ers. Actually, hyperextended his knee a couple of games ago for preseason. So we'll see how he comes out of there for the Sixers, but that's over there. The Clippers added Chris Dunn back to the roster, and Kevin Porter Jr., Derek Jones Jr. I forgot to mention Tim Hardaway Jr. for the Pistons. That would be good for them. But yeah, Clippers, they're still pretty deep when you think about it. You got Kawhi Leonard when he wants to play. James Harden is a one-on-one player, but he also gets some assists here. They did add Mo Bamba, but that doesn't mean much. You got Coffee, Terrence Mann, PJ Tucker. They're working out a trade for him. Get his old ass out of there. Kai Jones, he's a fun, high leaping player. I mean, the preseason highlights you've seen was him catching alley-oops and slam dunking. San Diego kid Norman Powell coming off the bench there or starting. Nicholas Batum coming back to the Clippers. And like I mentioned, Kevin Porter Jr. and Derek Jones Jr. and Zubac, the center, was extended for 3 years. You got Ty Lue there extended as well. And Jeff Van Gundy is an assistant coach for the Clippers. So that's going to be fun. I really like the coaching staff, other from Tyronn Lue. I hope he's able to get over the hump one day. But it won't be this year. They finished fourth last year, and of course they were out in the first round by the Dallas Mavericks. I think it gets worse for the Clippers this year. The West is so damn deep. And you look at the Pacific, even though there's been changes, I still think the Lakers would come out of that with the Kings there, first and second. Clippers hopefully will make a play-in tournament game, but probably will lose in that. So that's what I think for the Clippers. They'll play in the play-in tournament, and they'll be out in the first play-in game. So that's been our NBA season preview and prediction, and we'll follow the season, of course. And I have to mention this, Ace. The last season of Inside the NBA will start on Tuesday next week, October 22nd, and I cannot wait to watch that. And throughout the year on Thursdays, I'm gonna be really sad once that crew is not doing games anymore. All right, we'll leave you with one trivia question, Ace, and this is one I found, I think, online somewhere. It involves college sports and a couple of schools. Are you ready?
Okay.
So 2 schools in the SEC conference are located in cities with this same name, but in different states. 2 schools in the SEC are located in cities with the same name, but in different states. So same name, but in 2 different states.
Same name, but
Same city.
Same city, but 2 different
states.
But 2 different states.
Same city name, but in 2 different states, and they both have SEC colleges.
That's actually a good question.
I could give you the 2 schools, but you have to guess the city.
Okay.
So it's Missouri and South Carolina. Have the same. Their campus has the same city name.
I'm not sure, actually.
Let me get it to you.
Yeah.
Missouri and South Carolina, it is Columbia.
Columbia,
South Carolina, and Columbia, Missouri has the Tigers and the Gamecocks. Both have the same name, or the same city, or the same city in on their campuses. Same name, I should say. So this was Sports Hour, aka Sports Minute. We hope that you've enjoyed the program. If you're watching back, be sure to leave a comment anyway, and just follow and like along as well, and give us those 5 stars on Facebook as well. And just check out all the programs throughout the week. That's my final thought, I guess. What about yours, Ace?
Yep. So thank you everybody for watching, James. It was fun tonight. We definitely appreciate it. You can catch more episodes. I'm hoping to do Kicking It tomorrow. That's the plan. So I'm hoping to have everybody on for that tomorrow. Keep watching C2C all week long.
All right, folks, we'll get out of here with that. Thank you again for watching Sports Hour, and we'll see you next time. Take care, folks, on C2C. Later.